So Samsung has been going all in teasing the Galaxy S26 Ultra's camera upgrades, especially low-light video, and apparently the best way to show that off right now is with AI-generated before and after clips. But that raises the real question: what's actually changing with the S26 Ultra cameras? And why is Samsung pushing the camera so aggressively in these teasers despite no major hardware leap on paper? Well, here's what's really going on. What's up, guys? Mr. Fanova here. So before we get into that, quick heads up, the Z Trifold is coming back in stock in the US today on February 20th at 10 a.m. Eastern. Last time it literally sold out in about 2 minutes, so if you're even thinking about picking one up, use the offer link in the description and be quick about it, because once it's gone, it's gone. Now, on paper, if you look at the S26 Ultra's camera specs, they look basically identical to last year, and at first glance it feels like nothing changed, but that's not the full story. There are 8 camera upgrades here, none of them scream revolutionary on a spec sheet, but together they do push image quality forward in meaningful ways. First up, the aperture upgrades on the main camera and the periscope lens. This is actually the biggest camera improvement on the S26 Ultra this year. Aperture changes don't sound as exciting as a brand new sensor or a megapixel jump, but a wider aperture has a real impact on low-light performance. That's why Samsung's teasers are heavily focused on nighttime video from both lenses. And it's not just night scenes. Daytime photos and video should benefit too, with better depth of field and improvements in overall quality. Next, Samsung is dialing things back in terms of image processing. The S26 Ultra is going for a more natural look. In simple terms, it aims to capture scenes closer to how they actually look in real life. Compared to the S25 Ultra and older models, which often pushed saturation and contrast a bit aggressively, this is a noticeable shift. Now, I know this is going to get a mixed reaction. Some people prefer bold, saturated look, while others want realistic look. So not everyone is going to be happy about this. But it's not just the overall look. The skin tones are also getting attention, with reduced yellow tinting, something Samsung phones have been criticized often. There's also an improved lens coating to reduce flare. This might sound minor, but in bright environments where you have strong light sources, flare can wash out parts of an image and reduce contrast. A better coating helps control that, giving you cleaner shots in harsh lightings. On top of that, sky images taken with the 200-megapixel camera should show less banding and less visible noise compared to previous generation. Now, let's talk about one of the more interesting upgrades, the new 24-megapixel mode. And no, this is not the same 24-megapixel option we already have inside the Expert RAW app. This is a proper 24-megapixel mode built into the default camera as long as you enable it through the Camera Assistant app. Compared to the standard 12-megapixel mode, it's designed to produce more detail, better color information, and overall richer images. The trade-off is processing time, reportedly up to 3 seconds, but the processing runs in the background, so the camera app itself won't slow down. And no, older Galaxy models will not get this feature through a software update for some reason. Moving to the front camera, Samsung is switching to a Sony sensor instead of using its own ISOCELL sensor. On paper, the specs remain largely the same, but the field of view is slightly wider, meaning your selfies will capture more of the scene. Interestingly, the rear 200-megapixel camera is also getting a subtle widening. Meanwhile, the 5x periscope zoom camera is being adjusted in the opposite direction. Its focal length is slightly more zoomed in, which can actually improve framing and consistency at that range. Interestingly, there's also a weird change. The 3x telephoto camera is technically getting a larger sensor, but Samsung is cropping it down, so effectively the usable sensor area ends up being smaller than before. It sounds counterintuitive. Why go through the trouble of using a bigger sensor only to crop it? The likely reasoning is that the center of the sensor delivers the cleanest and most consistent image quality. By focusing on that central sweet spot and ignoring the outer edges, Samsung might be aiming for sharper and more reliable 3x shots. But until we test it side by side, there's no way to say whether this ends up being an upgrade or a downgrade in practice. I'll be getting my hands on the phone and putting all of this to the test myself, so stay tuned for the full review. Hit subscribe for full unpacked coverage next week. And if you want full coverage when Samsung unveils everything next week, hit that subscribe button.